In Thorgal the Board Game, players go on multiple adventures in the mystic world of Norse mythology. Thank you for joining me here at Tantrum Mouse Studio D. I'm Kevin Delp. Thorgal the Board Game is a cooperative scenario-based narrative game for 1 to 4 players based on the popular European comic book series of the same name. Each scenario takes about an hour and a half to 2 hours to play. This game is going to crowdfunding on GameFound platform from Portal Games. I'll have a link in the description of this video. And thank you to Portal Games for sponsoring this video. As in all our overview videos, we'll give you an idea on how the game is played, but we won't be sharing our thoughts on likes or dislikes. In this video, we'll look at general gameplay, so we won't be spoiling the actual scenarios from the game. And this is a prototype, and the actual production of the game will be better in many areas. Now let's take a look at Thorgal. The game comes with quite a bit of components. There are 3 rulebooks, the rulebook, the book of tales, and an atlas of adventure. Adventure sheets, character boards, minis, lots of cards, dice, polyomino tiles, and tokens. Here's a quick overview of the game. Players will begin the game with a story and a goal to achieve. A round consists of 4 players taking a turn. So in games with fewer than 4 players, you'll have some players taking more than 1 turn. Actions can be things like moving, collecting, assigning, combat, things like that. After the action phase, there's an event phase. You'll keep playing until you've either met the win or loss conditions. But for now, let's take a look at the player actions a little bit more in depth. There's moving. You're going to move your character a number of spaces based on your move value. The main thing to be aware of is the different types of borders. You have regular borders, multiple borders, special borders, and impassable borders. Another action you could take is called Journey. Now this is different than Move. You'll get Journey tiles based on your Journey experience track. You'll be placing these tiles onto terrain cards. Covering up different icons on these cards will activate different effects. Also, revealing new terrain cards gets you the bonus that is in the top right of the card. Different effects that you cover up could be things like gaining resources, discarding wound tiles, defeating enemies, gaining experience, and things like that. A different action that you could take is Collect. You'll be gaining goods based on the value of that collect action. Covering certain spaces on the terrain card can give you wounds though, so be careful. Assign is another type of action. This allows you to place goods from your supplies onto locations to resolve the effects. Some locations are locked, have enemies or a check mark, and you can't assign goods to those locations. Assigning can be a good way to advance the story, as it could allow you to read a specific entry. There's also a combat action. You'll choose an enemy token in your space, draw an enemy card, make a combat roll of dice, taking wounds, resolving effects, and determining whether you've won or lost. There are 5 different kinds of enemies: minor, moderate, major, massive, and mystical. There are ways to upgrade your dice, and some effects allow you to re-roll, which can be helpful. Sacrifice is an action that will have you take wounds and then read the entry to continue the adventure story. Craft is the last type of action that you could take. You'll be choosing a number of item cards based on the craft action value and placing them below your character board. These items are single use, but they can be very helpful to improve your actions or perform additional effects. A big part of the game is not only the actions you can take, but when you take the actions, because most of the action cards get more powerful based on where the used action chips are located in the action row. So you really want to be discussing with your teammates what actions they think is best and what order to do them in each round. The action cards will also be changing throughout the game. These all have numbers on them, and as you update the cards, you must keep the row in ascending order of number. But usually better cards will help you get more powerful actions. After the action phase, there is the event phase. This happens once all the action chips are on the inactive side. You'll advance the round marker, flip all the action chips back to the active, and resolve the next event phase effect on the active event card. Each adventure has its own winning and losing condition, but there are 2 ways the game would immediately end: if a character dies or because of running out of time, which is when there are usually no rounds left. This would end the adventure in a loss. The other thing to keep in mind is that each adventure has multiple endings, so winning typically involves defeating a certain number of enemies, gathering a certain number of items, or exploring a certain number of locations. It really just depends on the scenario. The game is also replayable since the scenarios have different endings depending on how well you did, and even different players from game to game could change that up. Of course, there are various objectives too. Theme-wise, the game sees players take on the roles of Thorgal and his companions as they embark on a series of quests to defeat evil forces and protect the innocent. Now, you can take control of these characters and hopefully gain them experience and get better abilities. I'm not going to try and pronounce their names because I'll probably just do a bad job of it. In the game, the map book will contain 7 maps. For the Book of Tales, the game will contain more than 80 pages. The campaign offers 7 standalone scenarios, each one taking about an hour and a half to 2 hours to play. You can check out the crowdfunding campaign to see what else is offered. Remember, what you've seen here in this video is all prototype components. I believe Thorgal the Board Game will be for fans of cooperative adventure scenario-based games. I think you'll also like the unique action selection mechanic that I described a little bit earlier in the video. So take a moment, check it out, Thorgal the Board Game from Portal Games on GameFound. And as always, please like the video. Let's spread the love of board gaming.